Hello, and this is a very basic introduction to Maya for those who want to review the foundations of using this software, 3D software. And together today we want to model this little cute character I designed. It's my red dog, and then see if we can rig it and animate it as well. So it's a basic yet comprehensive tutorial. So this is Maya. Here are your menus, here are your shelves, and there's two important windows you may need more often. So this is outliner, which shows how much of objects do you have in your scene, and channel box, which is the basic parameters of anything within your scene, and attribute editor, which is the more detailed parameters view of your stuff. We're going to use them anyway. So let's go to the polygon modeling. Before we start polygon modeling, I would like to bring that image as a reference. So I go create, and we create a free image plane. So it's just like a image plane. And you see that here I need, so if this one's selected, parameters of that one is loaded. So I'm going to go and grab that image from this address I have, and it's loaded. So my image, as you can see, is a square. So it's fine if I keep it square, but if it would be have a different aspect ratio, so you can adjust it here as well. So I would like to bring it like, so this is like the center of the world that I would be using. So here is your move tool, so you can move it up. Here is your rotate tool that you can rotate in every direction, or by holding blue, you can see it here. Blue is around Z, green is around. So that one same, like red is moving towards X, blue is moving towards Z. So, and here is rotation, and this one is a scale. So if you hold it from the middle, it scales from all directions. If you hold it from one side, it scales it from, let's say, X, which is red. So let me undo all of that. There is also one interesting, so you see that, like, if you want to do it manually, like this channel box gives you numbers. So let's say if I say 5 or 6, it just like moves it towards that direction. I think 5 is right on the ground. Or if you hold J on your keyboard, let me just use this pen, which is a very useful tool. This pen helps you to draw on. So if I hold J on keyboard, hold it. I'm holding it now, and you see that it snaps through the area that you want. So I'm going to set all of this to 0, and then hold J and move it up. Oh, no. Hold J, move it up, so it snaps to the. But what I would like is that let's make it a little bit larger. But what I would like is that to see this, his feet on the ground, like here. See that one ground? Let me just clean all of this. So his feet on the ground. So you have this like 4 view. This is a 3D perspective view. If you click it here, you see it from top, from front, from side, And if you just hover your mouse anywhere and you just press space bar, so it brings it in. So like you see that this is like a bold line is the ground line, so I can align it there. Also in the perspective you can use these things like go to the front, so it helps you to do it like right here. So and if I okay, so I'm gonna talk about navigation in Maya as well. So the moment you hold Alt, it means that you want to move the camera, your navigation. So it's all about Alt and your regular mouse, like left mouse button, which is, you just rotate around, or let's call it rotate around. There's a neat N here. So, but if you hold Alt and middle mouse button, so I'm holding Alt and middle, you see that I'm tracking, track or pan. The common word for it is panning. And if I hold Alt and right mouse button, we zoom in and out. So I'm holding Alt, right mouse button, zoom in and out. So by holding Alt and all of the mouse actions, you can do everything you want inside Maya. Okay, so I'm gonna move this to the back holding J. So now I'm gonna move it like here. Now I can start modeling. So modeling inside Maya is like clay works. You start with like very basic geometries like boxes, like spheres, like cylinders. So these are basic geometries. So, and as you can see, if the geometry is selected, it gets highlighted into green. So you use these basic geometries, and then based on them, you gradually move into a more refined geometry. Okay, so let's start from a box. Again, from poly modeling shelf, I clicked on the box. So this is a box here. So I'm gonna move it and make it the size the size of the body. So I'm using something called hotbox to switch the camera view, but it's basically the same as clicking this, hovering here, press space bar. So let's bring it on top, press R on the keyboard. Oh, by the way, or this is Q, so QWER, QWER. So, or just coming and clicking here, like visually, which is okay. So I'm gonna adjust it to the size of the body. There's another tool that, button that you really need is like, you see that here, our objects are shown full, or what is called shaded. So this is a shaded view. But if I click here, so you see that it's a wireframe view. If you see, it's wireframe view. So this one is wireframe view. So in your keyboard, you can press 4 or 5 for switching between the two. So I press 4 here, which it enables me to see the wireframe view, and I adjust it to the body, and then I've got my box. Okay, so now let's move on to the another very important concept. So we're covering like very basic concepts, and that is these three on top. So either object mode or component mode. You see that one, the arrow is selecting different objects, but this one, the arrow is selecting the components of object. Best way to move into components. So object is, so let's say, let me just add another sphere here. So we have two objects here. I select either this object or that object. This is called object selection mode. But sometimes you need the components of these objects. Let's say so if you hold right click, you see that I either want to select the vertex or the edge or like some faces, like this face or that face, and just move them around. So this is like component manipulation. So, and then I'm gonna go back to object mode, is just hold it, right click, and then go here. So basically what I said is right click. So you will access either component or object mode. So these components are, you know, vertexes, edges, faces, and so on and so forth. So as the reference photo shows, the edges are very soft. It's not that sharp, right? So let's say I'm going to select this edge, and while selected, so inside polygon modeling there is a tool called bevel components. You see that one? Or there is a magical thing in Maya, and it's shift and right click. So almost like everything you need, you know, it's called shift. If you hold shift, like hold shift and hold right click, right mouse button, that's a better word, right mouse button. You see that I'm holding shift, I'm holding right mouse button, and I see everything here, everything that is related to edge. If I select a face and I and you see suddenly it's anything related to face. These are very important polygon, we call them polygon modeling tools. All of polygon modeling tools. Oops. Polygon modeling tools. So you have them all. So here I select that one, I hold shift, hold right click, and then I get bevel, right? So you see that it becomes beveled, like kind of chiseled, but it's not that, it's not soft. But what if but it gave me like a menu here. So if I increase the kind of number of segments, I see that, oh, I get that kind of edging, but it's not that deep inside. So the depth you can, like this fraction, not the whole fraction, not the whole everything, but you just need like just part of it. So for those of you who might wonder how I'm doing this, I just click, instead of changing the number, I just click on the attribute name and I drag to the left or right. So that's how I work. Okay, so I'm gonna undo all of that because I want to soften all the edges. So not in object mode, right click, select edge, and select all of the edges. What I did is called box selection. I drag a box around the area of all the things that I want to select. So now all the edges are selected. So now I'm going to bevel all the edges. So you see that all of them are beveled. Let's move to the front view, and all of them I add them few segments to. We can work with the friction, but like I think we are almost good. Maybe 0.55 is the best number, but almost there. So that's gonna be the body of this little dog. I hold right click, object mode, and I press 5 in keyboard. If you remember, moving between wireframe and shaded mode. So now that's the body of the dog. So I can even go to the rendering and assign this little thing which is called standard shader, or this one which is an open PBR surface material. These are new materials you can use. So I click on that one, open PBR. Okay, so let me just go back and explain in better detail what I'm gonna try to do. So I moved from polygon modeling to rendering shelf because I want to add a color, which is an element of rendering, right? And then and these are different ways that the surface behaves to the lights. Some of them are very simple, like these 5. These 2 are highly adjustable. So let's say if I click on that one, it adds a shader that has everything that I need. The moment I do that, it goes to attribute editor and it opens up all the parameters I need to change this. So I can click on the color, I can click on the eyedropper, and I can grab a nice part of this color, and maybe actually I'm making a little bit brighter. So that's the color of the body. It's not that shiny. So if I select it and go back to the color attribute, so in the roughness I make it more rough. That's a rougher surface. It's not a less rough surface which is like super shiny. It's more rough surface. So that's the body, right? So we can do the same for the legs, right? So if I go to the front view, if I add one cylinder, that's a cylinder. If I press R in the keyboard, like make it smaller, move it, I'm gonna press 4, and I'm gonna hold Alt and right click. If you remember, this is navigation, and then adjust the length of the So you might say that, okay, the body part, this part needs to come down a little bit. The top is okay, the bottom not. So you can select the body, you can go and right click and select vertexes, and you can box drag all the vertexes of the body and adjust it further down. But I think we're gonna leave with what we have somehow. Yeah, should be all right. So let's go back to this object. This could be taller, so part of it goes inside the body, and this side of the other side of it, you can select all the edges. So I'm going to select this edge, and then I click Q, so I go to the select mode. So these like kind of handles, this manipulators doesn't bother me. So I go press Q. So you're going to select this, and you're going to select, hold shift and select that one, and select that one, and select. So I'm going to select a row of edges. If this row of edges are interconnected, so here you see that these edges are all interconnected. We call this edge loop. This is a very important concept in the modeling. And so if I'm gonna like make edge loop, if I'm gonna like select all of this edge loop, all you need is to double click on one edge. So you see that an edge loop is selected. So let's see if these edges are a loop. If I double click, you see that this one travels all the way up to here, but it doesn't come back. So that's not a loop. What about this body? If I go to the edge and if I double click on that, that is a nice edge loop. That is a nice edge loop. You see that it just has traveled all the way up. Let me just change the color of this. So you see that it has traveled all the way. So that's an edge loop. So here I gonna select all of these edges or edge loop of this area. So I just double click. Bevel, of course, more segments to make it nice. Yeah, now it looks okay. I can go back to object mode, and I can press 5. If you want the same material here, you can right click on it and go to the assign. So you don't want, so you see, you don't see me going back to the rendering and click here again and make the material again, because the material exists. Where does it exist? It exists in this little thing, which we call it hypershade. So if I click on it, you see that the world of materials show up and your material is there. Actually, you can click it and name it. You can say that red dog material. So like give it a name, right? But this is like a little bit intimidating. It's just too much of different things all around. So you might just, oh, I'm scared of it. But you can simply access the existing material by just right click, assign new material or assign existing material. And we have that red dog material there. So I'm just add it there. Something to keep in mind is that I'm gonna make this dog walk. So let's say I'm gonna have this leg bend. First of all, I don't like this. Like I might move it slightly in, even though it starts to just like go away from the original design, but I would like to move it in. This geometry has to bend. So like let's say you know, this is the current shape, but you want it to be bended, right? So we want all of this cylinder to be bended like this when the dog walks. But as you can see, there is no edge. There's no detail to support that movement. Let me set back color to where it was. Yeah, there is no detail to support that movement. Here is where, before moving into the animation, in the modeling phase, I think ahead about animation phase. So I just add edge loop here. So edge loop, I know the shift menu, but I'm looking for what's the shelf menu for that, which should be no, that's well to. So what I do is that hold shift, hold right click, and then insert edge loop, and you can find it in the edit mesh menu or mesh menu. It's somewhere here. Oh, mesh tools, insert edge loop. But as I said, if you hold shift, hold right click, you get all of the magical tools you need, you know, everything related to polygon modeling. Here is insert edge loop, and if I look at from front or side, doesn't matter, around the knee I need edge loops here and here and here. I need few edge loops. So now this leg can bend. So like, let's say if I bring it here, if I hold the faces and I select all of these faces and I press R and then I press D on the keyboard, I explain this one, which is later. So if I'm gonna move this, you see that I have a bit of rotation capability, but without these things, so imagine that this one. So what I did now is what I have one object selected. I press Ctrl D to duplicate. So Ctrl D to duplicate. So here, just right click edge. So let me just get rid of all of these edges. So you get shift right click and delete edges. So imagine that I want to apply some deformation here and I rotate it. You see that I don't have any component for that knee deformation. So that's why we added these extra edges for that deformation in the future. So you might say that if I press Ctrl D and move this, so I get the other part. But if you want perfect symmetry, you might again use this one, which is mirror, or shift right click. Again, you see that shift right click is everything you need. So mirror, and you suddenly see, oh, it's mirror, but like where? So it's lost. So the direction is minus, as you can see. So this is in X direction, I want a mirror, but you may change the direction to positive because it should move to X positive, not X negative. So by adjusting some, you get like a complete symmetry things. Okay, we have the legs. I better save this at this stage. So I'm gonna save it to the same place as the project files are. Red dog. Modeling version 1. So let's go to do the head probably. So many of many of you might say that for the head I'll bring this sphere up and I adjust it to the head, and oh wow, I got the head, which is very nice. And so maybe like a little bit of squashing and all sorts of that, and that's the head. Okay, but my issue is this is not a nice topology. So there is a word, there is a very important word, everyone should learn it, and it's topology. Let me just write it like that. topology, which means that how surface is distributed, how are these polygons are distributed. Here you can see that like many edges come and just like kind of concentrate here and there. So it works like a bottleneck. So so the edge loop does exist here, but on the like vertical side there's no edge loop. So I do something very interesting, which I use a box again. So I use a box and move it in center here. So when I adjust it to the size of the head, and if I use a tool called smooth, you see that like here like a rough shape becomes smoother, or again shift right click and smooth, it suddenly becomes like a sphere, right? And if I add a little bit of divisions, it becomes a very nice sphere actually. And this sphere interestingly has a much better topology. You see that like everything here, almost everything here has an edge loop. So all the edges, let me just go red here, all the edges loops, here loops, here loops. So the only kind of challenges I might have are, one is here, which you see that like 3 edges come together, like sort of a bottleneck. And then one here, as you can see here. So, but it's no way like if you compare this with, the basic sphere tool, you see that this looks much neater in terms of the distribution of components. So it has, in other words, it has a better topology. So now if I fit this, I get a nicer topology head over there. Beautiful. So I can basically duplicate or do the same thing, because I don't want too much of complication for the eyes. So I duplicate. So again, shift right click. If you have selected anything, shift right click has a lot of tools for the polygon modeling. But if you don't have selected anything, shift right click has some basic polygon modeling tools. So instead of clicking on this shelf, I just make my life faster and easier by shift right click while nothing is selected. I just click outside, shift right click, add a cube, move the cube up to where the eye is. Okay, so what you saw is this. I have one object selected, let's assume the head. And if I press F, F stands for frame selected. In other words, bring the selected one to the frame. So that's what I did. I had this one selected and I press F. So, and if you want to undo camera movement, Alt Z. Control Z is for undoing your action, Alt Z for undoing your camera. So Control Z or Z is undo action. So let's say I moved this to the side, now I want to undo it. Alt Z is undo camera. So if I like look at this one, so if I move this one away, I Ctrl Z undo, but if I change the camera and Alt Z undo the camera. So some very basic operations everyone should know. So I'm just like adjust this, smooth it, so it becomes like this. A little bit of division, not that much, just a little. That's enough. It's going to be an oval shape, some sort of an oval shape. And I'm going to bring it outside of the body. Maybe a little bit flattened. It's like this. And maybe if I rotate it and I adjust it, so that's how an eye is socketed or like kind of located on the body. If I press 4, somehow close. Okay. Press 5 here, and I can mirror it. If you remember, what's the issue that stops from mirroring? Click it, mirror. Yeah, positive direction. Now I have 2 eyes. Okay. So existing material for the red, but for the eyes we need a new material, so why not we generate a new material, and that is inside rendering material. This is gonna be a super dark material and super shiny, so roughness is low, so it's gonna be shinier. You see the reflection in the eyes of the dog is like kind of some sort of a box, not dot. Actually, this should be even like sharper. But that's the matter of lighting, which I will do later. Okay. So nose is a bit different, and the mouth as well. So let's do them. So let's press 4. Nose, I would do the box again. So shift right click box, bring it up. Maybe I select these vertices on the bottom, make them closer to each other from top, further from each other. Maybe I select these edges and bevel them. So, and then readjust everything a little bit before I make them smooth. So here you see that this part is closer to each other, but like I need some part somehow further away from each other, like, so these 2 parts I box drag them further away, but I need like some sort of a more detail here. So I go to the object mode, shift right click, insert edge loop, I can't add edge loop here for some reason. So that's why I go to the object mode. I'm going to introduce you a new tool. Shift right click, multi-cut, which is a very interesting tool. So I can just drag. I hold shift for like, and then cut, drag and cut. So you can add details like this if your edge loop doesn't work. So now I can box drag this, box drag all of this, and then press R in the keyboard and just like adjust it a little bit. Now I'm not gonna move this away. I think my reference is a little bit like, you know, off centered, so I'm not gonna bother with that because symmetry on Maya is very accurate. So now I just smooth this one. I get something that might look like the nose, but it has some problems because it was working on the front side but not on the back. On the front side is okay, but not here. For here, I assume that if I want to draw this in my mind, so the nose gonna be like something like this on the front from side view, right? For the front view, it was like this. For the side view, it's like this. So it's, if I imagine it in my mind. So I follow that, what in my mind. But like before that, I'm gonna show you that here, again, the word topology, which means that polygon should flow, like polygon loops should flow. Here you see that this polygon is left disconnected, so I can shift right click here and use multi-cut, and then hover my mouse here and then over here, and then press enter in my keyboard, and then this one here and this one here, and enter in keyboard. So now I have like a nice polygonal shape over there. Let's do a bit of adjustments on the vertices. Select this one. Okay, I'm gonna introduce you to a new tool, and that's soft selection. So and it works like this. If you hold B on keyboard and then middle click and drag, so pressing B, turning B on and off. So let me just write it here. It's tap B, you turn on and off the soft selection. Selection tool, and if you hold B and middle mouse button, you can soft selection range, soft range. So let's say, what is soft selection? You know, if I turn it off, that's my action. But if I turn it on, my action permeates to the rest of, like, it just, there's a bit of softness of the movement. You see that other parts are impacted too. So, but sometimes, so for example, if I want this and I want like a wider area of the impaction or range of impact or less area, so I have to press hold B and middle click and drag for that. So, and that's another one. So here, for example, I don't want this to be impacted that much, so I bring it back more. push all of that inside, and then when I press soft, that is a nicer nose now, isn't it? Let's see it from front. We might need a bit of adjustment, vertices on top, while the soft selection is tool is selected, and this one's in the bottom. Yeah, that is a better adjustment. So let me just when I created this eye material, so you see that the material inside the attribute editor is the last one. It's called standard surface 3. I just call it eye material. I want one material for the nose, so I go for, because it's different, you see that the nose is some eyes are shiny, nose and mouth is like kind of some fuzzy and opaque. So I go here and I add a new material. This is gonna be black, but it's a totally different black. It has a much higher roughness. It's, you know, the shininess of it is different. Maybe you want more smoothness here, more detail. So if you go to the, you know, let's look at this nose. If you go to the details of this, all the actions that has happened on it, we created the cube and we beveled it and we just did some polycuts, like kind of, and then splitting, and you know, we did a lot of things, and then on top of all of that we added a smoothness, and all of our actions are stored here in this channel box, and if I want to access them I can click it and I can adjust it. For example, divisions I can add 2, but you see that it just goes like crazy. So instead I add another smoothness on it, which works better. Okay, maybe I need a bit of rotation so it just aligns. Okay, so that's a better nose. Now it's time for me to talk about history of, like, modeling history. We call it modeling history, and that's basically this. Okay, so you need this while you work, but once you are done, do you still need it? It's a lot of data that makes your Maya scene slow and big, so you don't need it. So here you see how you have a tool, like it's like a clock with a cross on it, which is delete history, or if you go edit, delete by type history, or Alt Shift D. So Alt Shift D is a very commonly used tool for deleting history, deleting modeling history, if you don't need it. If you need it, keep it. Otherwise you just come here and just press delete history. You see that it just deletes the history. I might do that for all of this because I'm happy with the rest. Alt Shift D, all of the history of different parts are deleted. Okay, so let's do the mouse. So this looks like a cylinder that is like kind of bent. Let's apply that theory, like grab a cylinder, bring it up, rotate it, make it very, very thin. So inside the history, you have this radius, which you can make your cylinder 003, no, 6, yeah, or more, 8, 7. I need details because I just like, I also doesn't need so much details on the, if you look at the cylinder, if I bring it out, you will see what I mean. So I don't want that much of detail on this side. So I can type a number here, or I can click on the name and middle click and drag inside the scene. So I think this 8 is enough. You will see, because we're gonna add a smoothness at the end, but I want detail on the height. Oh, no, not here. Subdivision height. Not much. As much as that, it helps me to do some modeling, you know. When you do modeling, simplicity comes and helps you. So like here, if I rotate this. Oh, okay. So I want to rotate. So this is my object, right? Press F. So at the moment you see that I'm gonna rotate this around not the center point, but this point here in the edge. You see that point? That's where I want to rotate it. This point. So how I can move my center of rotation to that one? You just press D on keyboard. So center of rotation is called pivot point. So to change your pivot point, let me just go another color. Move pivot point, pivot, or like center of rotation. For moving it, you just press D, like tap D on your keyboard, press D. So let's do it. D, I can move it, and D again. So now it rotates around that point. Okay. Now I can select the vertices. As you remember, soft selection, which was B, is selected. I might select all just these ones. Do a bit of movement, rotation, a bit of rotation here, a bit of movement. You see that how interesting soft selection works for you, you know. If here I need a less range, so I hold B and middle click for a less range. So now I have a very nicely positioned set of polygons, and I can select this edge loop. I can press B on the keyboard. I don't need soft selection. I might bevel this area, and so that area is beveled. A bit of adjustment. Object mode, and now it's softness. So go soft. Ta-da! So I've got one beautiful side of the mouth. Now all you need is mirroring it, and you get the other side. As the mirroring is still alive, so you can grab some of the vertices and move them around, or what I do is that before mirroring, I just make sure vertex, so this side, I just want to make sure that it just like it has to be aligning with this. So that's how the mirroring happens. but then I lose a lot of kind of topological beauty, which I just restore it like that. Okay, let's see how mirroring this one would help. Yeah, that's better. Now a bit of adjustment on the vertices, and this one we don't need them to be so entangled. Oh, maybe I just move these ones down by manually. Okay, now I've got a nicer mouth. Now all I need is just to project it on the body so that it fits the body. You see that the rotation of this mouth is a bit awkward, so sometimes you want to reset the reset all of this, which we call it translation or translation attributes. Okay, so or the other word for it, which is freeze, we're just gonna freeze it. So here you see this snow icon, so you see that all of this is frozen. So now if I use rotation, you see that, like, you know, it's not that awkward anymore. So I'm gonna line it with that. So now, like, I'm gonna move these vertices back, but as you already know, I'm not gonna select all of that, just these ones. Oh yeah, so I'm gonna use a soft selection tools. But you might just say, I wish when I move this, because this is symmetrical, right? I wish this part would have been moved as well. This is called symmetry, okay? And how to achieve that? So you either have to double click on the tool that you use and go to the symmetry settings and turn it on towards the direction you want. For example, here is X, right? So you can say object X, okay? And then come back. That's a long path to get there, but I'm gonna show you as an easier path. So easier path is you just hold Control and Shift together and right click, and then symmetry here, turn on the symmetry, and while hold Control and Shift, you can set the symmetry to which direction you want. And like, again, let me just write it down. Hold Control and Shift and right mouse button, and then you get access to symmetry. To turn symmetry on and off, on or off, you can access it, and it's a very useful tool. So let's say, let me turn it off, no symmetry. So if I select this, there's no symmetry, but if I turn it on, there's a symmetry, so I can work symmetrical now. So that's inside. Maybe I move this inside and up as well, so it looks like a mouth. Now maybe I just okay, I want to scale, or I move this away so it would be like that. Not bad. Does it look too big to me? It doesn't. I don't know, it just looks too big to me. Anyway, But the kind of material this one has, I'm gonna delete the history on that. So that's the delete. The kind of material on that one is, so let me just name the nose material, which was this one. If you go to attribute editor, surface, we call it nose matte. So if I select this one, right click, existing node matte. So that one's done too. This one looks more flat. So what I do is that I can flatten that a little bit more. And I can push things inside the body a little bit more too. Okay, that is a bit more aligned with what I want. Save it. So let's do the tail. Okay, how I'm gonna do this tail? So for making this tail, I'm going to introduce a new tool which is called extrusion. So add a box, bring the box up. So what is extrusion? Extrusion is that, so if you want to extend, so what I do is that now I select one face and I'm gonna extend it along the path. So extrusion here is, I think it's this tool, extrude, or my favorite way of doing it, shift right click, extrude face. So I can extrude it, I can rotate it, I can repeat my action by pressing G on keyboard and just keep doing it until I get what I want, right? So this sounds like an interesting modeling method. So let's do it together that way. So add a box, put it where it belongs to, holding for, so it's let's call it, this is like a profile of that tail, where the tail is rooted out. Okay, so this is some sort of a protocol profile that where the tail will be, oh, not here. I actually want the components of this. The reason that two faces are selected is symmetry. That's where you want the symmetry to be off here. If you remember, hold Control and Shift and right click and symmetry like that. So now what you do is that, actually I can rotate this a little bit. Shift right click, extrude face, move it. Okay, and when I click on this ring, I can rotate it, I can move it, I can press G on keyboard as I said for the next round, scale it up a little bit here. Actually, instead of scaling from here, I scale it from the middle, so it scales from all directions, not just that direction. Rotate it. Scale it down. G. So it's a little bit of patience. You can get a nice That's, and the last one, which is G, which is here. Okay, so if I look at from this side, looks almost okay. I don't know. Let's smooth it, and then you get, yeah, not bad. Not bad, with a bit of soft selection adjustments, pressing B, and just a bit of soft selection adjustments, you can get a fairly okay shape of from this angle. But you know, keep in mind that this is a 3D thing. You have to check it from every angle. So yeah, not bad. Let's get it. So some of you might be tempted to like add so much details like this, you know, keep adding smoothness and so much details. Don't do that. So that means a lot of unnecessary information. So we keep things simple and nice and neat. That's topology. If you see a little bit of jaggedness on the edges, it's controllable. In your keyboard, let me delete the history on that one. So on your keyboard, if you press, so like what I'm talking about is this. So like you see that one, it just looks like a little bit of jagginess, and you want a nice smoothness, right? So currently in your keyboard, the polygon smoothness is set to 1. If you press 3 on your keyboard, you see suddenly it becomes so smooth. So, you know, don't be afraid of a little bit of that. It's fine, it's adjustable. So let's assign an existing material, which is this material, the first material I created. So we're almost there. We just need the ears, and then we can we can start rigging and animating this. So for the ears, let me just analyze what's the best way to create it. I start with a box most of the time, and just like, let's position it there, and it's flattened. Let's smooth it a little bit, and then adjust the vertices somehow. Maybe this one up, this one here, and this one's here, this one's here, and that one's there. And see how it goes. So this one should be like kind of squished in. So, and it should be, in my opinion, much fatter. Yeah, or maybe a little bit back, a little bit tilted. Okay, so let's smooth that one more time. Just this one. And then let's grab, okay, I want to talk about a very important tool that I have not used it so far in this tutorial, but I'm gonna use it now. and it makes your life a lot easier. And that is, let me just save everything. That is sculpt tool. So like you are in polygon modeling, if you just move to the sculpting tool, you see a set of tools here, and these are super useful, especially this one, which is called grab tool. So you just click on it and you get like a little bit of like, you might just confuse what's happening. This is not working properly. Basically, this is like the adjustments look like a soft selection tool. You just have to hold B and middle click drag to select the area, and then you can select one area and move it around like this. Okay, actually I just make it the area bigger, but I want the movement to be stronger, so I hold M and drag as well. So if, in other words, if I double click on this tool, the size is this. You see the size is this. That's the size. And this is the strength. You can move everything like very strongly all around. Just move it around, move it around. Okay. You see that it's very convenient. It's like sculpting, but it's like a bit of chaotic too, you see? You know, sometimes you just, it's a bit of like working with a clay. Okay. I like this because of this. I just wanted to squish, like kind of punch this side inside, which I can see it here. And after that, I hold shift and then want to smooth whatever I did. And that's the beauty of it. Oh, you don't want to smooth it too much. So that's why when you hold smoothness is this one. You can click on it and you can set the strength. If you don't know where this one comes from, the panel window, double click on that. So I make the strength low of the smoothness. So no, that's too low now. Very much. A little bit of smoothness. Oh yeah. So, but you don't need to be on the smooth tool. You can be on the drag tool and then hold shift for the smoothness. You know, like now, oh, that's too much. A little bit from this side. And this side and this side. Let's go to the front, grab tool up. Yeah, I have an okayish. This one, this side is a little bit like deformed, so I just make it a little nicer. You see, I check every angle to make it work for me. That looks like a nice ear. Now that I have that beautiful shape, I delete the history. I add one layer of smoothness, extra smoothness. Now you see that, oh, it's so beautiful now. And history again. And then I might just do a little bit of last touches of sculpting. Here is becoming too sharp, and here there's not too much of punch inside. So and I hold shift. There's another tool, which is this one, which is redistributes polygons. So you see, look at this part. The polygons are kind of nicely redistributing now. It's very subtle, but that subtleness is visible. So a bit of a smoothness here, a bit of a smoothness here, and a bit of, oh, too much. A bit of smoothness here. Now I have a very nicely shaped ear. Okay, so that's my ear. As you know, you can mirror it, and then you get another ear, and then add the material on it, select everything, and delete the history. So you have to do one more, like a bit of cleanup before moving to the rigging video. So how the cleanup works, first of all, you need proper naming. So this one, so you have to open Outliner. If you remember, I said that this is a very important window. So this is head, nose, eyes, mouth, body, tail, legs, ears. What is this? Oh, that's an extra leg somewhere. We don't need it. Okay, and this is an extra camera. We don't need it. So now I select all of that with holding Shift, Control G on keyboard. So Control G stands for grouping. So we group them into one group and we call it red dog. So that's our red dog model. So nicely positioned. But now each part that I select, you see that they have different like kind of, these are positioning or translation attributes, so different scale. So like if I reset them, you see that they go somewhere very weird. So there is another concept called freezing, which, so I select all of the pieces and then click on that. You see that it just sets the attribute, that the translation attributes of each object to a neutral position. So as if this is the original positioning of this object. So if I move it around and if I set this to 0, that's where it must go. So that's the original position. So that's another cleaning. So again, history deleted, transformation frozen. If you want to get a bit of like lighting, like what you saw, that like some sort of a studio lighting to see the rendering quality of your dog, so you can create a, let's say can create a huge box. So we need some I can delete some of the faces, and I'm gonna use this box, and I'm gonna use it as infinity wall, like a camera studio. And then this edge can be beveled with lots of segments. And down. So let me just move this image plane to the side. This is, you see that like it's some sort of inside out because we just use the box to delete the pieces. So inside is black, outside has color. So but you can go to the modeling, mesh display and reverse, or again shift right, your friend shift right click, and there is a reverse somewhere. I can't find it. So use here mesh display reverse, so it gets reversed now. Delete the history, alt shift D, add a color to it, and the color is gonna be this green, but it's gonna be no shiny at all, so there's a very high level of roughness. So if I position a camera, now you need, for rendering you need camera, right? So here you see that in the rendering there's a camera, and the camera is here, and I can look through the camera, and I can turn on this camera gates, which we call it resolution gates. So I kind of can position my camera here. I can go, so that's and let me just select this and press F because I want to like position this right in the center, nice and neat. Okay, you can tear off this camera panel, tear off a copy of this camera and put it to the side, so like that, and you can select your let's call this infinity wall, and this is camera, of course. Okay, I select my camera. I'm gonna do something very interesting, and that's, I have selected my camera. I select all of the attributes of my camera, the name of them, not the number of them, and then right click and I lock them. So why I do so? So now if I hold Alt and try to change my camera, that doesn't work. So now you can see that I can go to different angles, my perspective for example, and I play around and my camera is still there. So whatever we did so far is called modeling, right? And what you see in the scene is not final, it's a very rough look, the look of it, the shape of it. To be able to get a beautiful outcome, you need to render, but that's not a beautiful outcome. This is not as beautiful as this. Look at that one, it's so beautiful. It has shadows, it has everything. So to render it, you can set the renderer to Arnold here. So I'm gonna set the renderer to Arnold. Actually I should have set it, this one to be a viewport, but this one to be Arnold. You see that it starts rendering things, but it's black. Nothing can be seen. Why? Because there's no light in your scene. So what is Arnold? So is this like Arnold Schwarzenegger, like with like all the muscles and things? No, it's a renderer. It's a set of algorithms that renders your scene, or takes this like rough looking scene and makes it like a beautiful outcome. So that is called rendering process. So why this is black? Because there's no light. So that's why I come to the Arnold and I add one light here. So suddenly you see, oh, this is beautiful. And if I move things around, you can see that, oh, this is the normal scene. It looks ugly, but like once added some light in it, it's much nicer and more beautiful. Now, but the light is so even. It's just like a very cloudy day, everything. But here you see that there's a bit of studio light. So to do some very quick lighting setup that like would be like a studio and I don't work much, I'm gonna download a lighting setup from this website, which has a lot of ready-made. This is called Polyhaven, and what we are looking for are HDRIs. These are high dynamic range images, which is basically studio lights. So I'm gonna go and from HDRI go to the studio and pick something that looks like what I saw, like the one that I saw, like this studio small or any other studio lighting. These ones with a shape is, so I maybe click this one. A 2K resolution is fine. I download it. Definitely I put it in where my project files are. As you saw, I saved my project files all here, so I save it to the same spot. Let's call it Studio Light HDR. Let's go back to Maya. Select your light, your dome light. So you see the dome light is a sphere that casts the light everywhere. So you see that one. So select that dome light, and then here in the attribute editor, what you do is that this is your dome light color. You don't want to change color, you want to change the texture of it. So you select on that and go to the file and click, and then you have this Studio Light HDR. So you bring it in, you suddenly get a beautiful studio light, which is adjustable. So look at the eye of the dog. So I can select this light and I can rotate it around to get a lighting setup that I like most. Yeah, that's cute, but it's a bit dark. Maybe I make the intensity higher. Oh, that's too much. This is okay. Great. If you want to save this file, so this is like what you saw here is a render, is a test render for fast viewing. Okay, I stop that. So that's RCam. If you want to render it into an image, so you open this while you are in Arnold, you open this I, which is Arnold render view. You set the camera, and before doing all of that, also you can set the resolution by clicking. So these are all your rendering setups. You can click on this rendering setup with the cog on it and say that my resolution is full HD, like 1080p, and the camera is camera. Yeah, and then you run that. So that renders a full image of the dog in very high quality. So you see that it achieves something, but it keeps going because it wants to just like resolve all the details. Okay, rendering is done. Now I can save this one single image. Save image as JPEG or any. Let's go to our project file. I'm gonna save it as PNG. So I call it test render.png. So this is again one single file. It's not if we go, so that's our test render. You see, it's beautiful. If you have an animation, so I'm gonna stop this, you don't render like this. You go to menu set, rendering, and render sequence, which here, and that's a topic for another video. So let's review what we have gone through. We imported a reference image, which is this little dog. It could be your sketch, and then we did some very basic modeling. This is like very basic modeling, but it looks nice and neat. Did proper naming, and then position a camera, some test rendering as well, and this is the result we got. I think we're ready to do some rigging and test animation. I stop this video now. We will talk about rigging and test animation in another video.